Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest, Erica, and she is a teacher. She's also a designer. She's an author, mother, and she specializes especially helping solopreneurs with their healing practices. She's also a yoga practitioner as well. So today's conversation is going to be very spiritual. We're going to be talking about healing chakras. She's also spent 2 years traveling the world. She's written a book and talking people how to heal from the comfort of their own homes. And I'm really happy to have a spiritual entrepreneur on the show. So Erica, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, like I said, I really love spirituality and I can get so many lessons. And briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to dive into the questions in the conversation.
Nice. I am a graphic designer first and foremost. I did graphic design for 10 years before becoming a yoga instructor. And my life really meets at that intersection between yoga and design. So I always ask myself, how can a creative process bring more meaning and bring more beauty into my life? And I love designing my life to follow whatever brings me bliss or whatever brings me happiness. And you mentioned before that I have a book. My second book is the one that focuses on the chakras. And it is an approach that I would use when I traveled the world teaching yoga and creativity retreats, where we would take that methodology of design and then the emotionally connected yoga. And we would use really visually powerful art, plus spend a lot of time out in nature. And that is what allowed us to really gain these insights that took on a lot of symbolism and meaning for us. And it was one of probably the most beautiful times of my life, being able to lead people through those experiences from all corners of the earth.
Very interesting. It's the first time I've heard yoga combined with design and creativity, graphic design. And what was the inspiration? What pivotal moments in your career that led you down the path? How has the journey evolved?
Love that question. It's really good because I know that most people they're not doing what they would love to be doing. They feel like they're stuck in habit and they can't break out of it. And that's precisely where I was. I went from my industrial design degree from the Ohio State University into an engineering position. And I was locked in that habit that gave me the illusion of, oh, I'm safe and secure. I have the biweekly paycheck. I have my health insurance. And that is really where my chakra studies began, because chakras, even though they're an ancient science, they're still really relevant for us today.
Oh.
You are experiencing pain like I was experiencing. I didn't feel fulfilled in my cubicle. I didn't feel like I was really doing everything that I wanted to be doing. I wasn't happy. And that pain and that suffering is what showed me that I need to be learning and exploring more about myself. What are my desires? What's my vision for myself? What do I love? What lights me up and turns me on? And that's how I learned how to rely on my chakras as this guide to start to embrace that pain and to find purpose in my life.
Well, very fascinating. And so what you described is kind of awakening. And sometimes, like I said, I reference the movie The Matrix a lot because the majority of the world is daydreaming and sleepwalking. And what kind of inklings tell you that there's more? Is it sometimes like, for me, I had palpitations, like pain in my chest and dizziness and just chest tightness. What was it for you? What was your awakening? How do you tap into this?
Yeah, those centers of consciousness along your spine, when you focus upon them, they start to come in. Like you have these palpitations in your chest. I had just this feeling of not being connected to what I love to be doing. I also had addictions that I was dealing with. So those types of suffering or pain, or maybe a lump in your throat or a knot in your stomach, those are obviously not lumps or knots. They're just your chakras telling you that this is where we need you to place your focus. And a lot of times we're programmed, because think of your chakras as these spinning discs. We're taught how to love and be loved. We're taught how to see the world. We're taught how to express our emotions. And when your chakras are programmed, that's when we can start to say, okay, It's not enough just to breathe deep, like most yoga classes teach us to do. We need to really understand where to place our focus, because if I can focus on where my addiction really came from me not having access to my second chakra,
Mm.
me not understanding how to create intimacy with myself, how to be close to myself. I was constantly reaching outward for validation, outward for love, or even I could see in my relationships that my relationships were suffering because my heart chakra was programmed to think that I had to earn love. So I would put myself in situations where I would sabotage the relationship just so I could try to earn it back. Does that make sense?
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. It's very profound and deep what you just said. And how does this how does this apply in real life? Because when you talk about like your chakras coming online, like I know, for example, like yoga, it's like through process of movement and you're twisting and bending and holding different poses to bring your awareness. How do you, is it like a body scan to find out where these areas of unconscious tension are being held or past traumas are being held? It's elucidated for us further.
Yeah, you look to that's why we would be in nature sometimes, because when I would lead like a walking meditation, the prompt would be to find something in nature that you feel represents your current situation. And then we would bring those pieces of nature back to the shala, the yoga shala, and then we would start to create nature mandalas. And then once everyone had a good hour just creating in silence and having this conversation, inner dialogue, and then expressing it through the mandala, we would each have an opportunity to share our stories. And what we would find is that a lot of times someone would be attracted to a branch that was broken because that would represent something that was broken in their hearts. Or someone would pick up a bud that was starting to bloom, and that would represent something like a feeling inside that they had that something new was coming about to blossom in their lives. And so we use the subconscious mind and the conscious mind in unison. And the subconscious mind really only speaks in symbols and signs. And that's why to synchronize your practices with the new moon, the full moon, this is you opening up from that really micro way of seeing your life into a macro, like, okay, if I could just get a bird's eye view of what I'm coping with, then I could start to look at things differently.
Interesting. And further expanding upon that, because you mentioned that your second chakra was responsible for kind of these outward manifestations, or you were talking about earning back and self-sabotage. What sort of insights or kind of experiences led you to identify these particular chakras were causing these particular problems? Was it coaching? Was it meditation? Was it medium Reiki? I'm just really fascinated.
Yeah. Everyone's journey is different. Mine had to do with talk therapy. After 10 years of that, I really felt like I wasn't healing my addiction. And so I went into Kundalini yoga, which is very energetic, and energetic exercises teams tend to lend to some of the deeper transformations, because Kundalini is a practice that will put your body in certain angles. Like you have your fingertips on your shoulders with your elbows lifted, shoulder height, and you'll twist, inhale to the left, exhale to the right. And you'll do this repetitive motion for 3 minutes. And then at the end of that motion, you'll rest in meditation and just observe the energy. And the reason why you have your elbows placed in those positions is because it's directly sending life force or chi to the heart center. And that is bringing more awareness around your heart chakra. And each energy center is known for a certain amount of spiritual gifts. So with the heart, I believe we find balance between the inhale, the exhale, the masculine, the feminine. I also believe that the heart teaches us about connection. I also think the heart teaches us about forgiveness. And so if I'm studying those spiritual lessons, say I concentrate an entire month on forgiveness, there's going to be revelations that start to come open. And for me in particular, I started to realize that my work in the third eye, which is where I started to dream my life. So I looked at, okay, my dream is to be a nomadic yoga teacher. And I want to travel the world leading yoga retreats. I realized that dream, I manifested that dream only to find out that really only encompassed about 10% of who I really was as a whole. Because I would lead these amazing retreats, but then after the retreats would end, I would find myself alone in Berlin by myself with no one really to share those experiences with because I was nomadic. Then that led me to the realization of, you know what, I value family, and family is what I wanted to do. And so you can start to see that if you really do go after your dreams, you realize not only that maybe that wasn't just your entire dream, but there's something just beyond that. So you always have to keep envisioning bigger and better things every time. And that's how you keep peeling the layers back.
Interesting. Yeah, there's so many amazing facets of just movement and your body and getting into your body. It's just really a fascinating. There's so much we could talk about, but moving on, I was wondering, would the twists and turns like actually help? Because a lot of healthcare professionals, one of my colleagues, she's also into yoga too, but she was in this like stressful, like surgical residency, and she like her nervous system was always wired, and she's like suffering from anxiety and just drinking a lot of alcohol. And so what they call it nervous system dysregulation. And this is the first time I've heard of this, healing your nervous system, sounds like what you do is you have to let all that past trauma go and go inward and do this self work. And it can be through different means and modalities. With creativity, what is sacred creativity, and how do you encourage your clients to actualize this in their personal and professional lives?
Sacred creativity to me is being able to express yourself and to make a living out of that, to sustain yourself from your own creativity.
Right.
I think through the socialization process, we are led down paths that maybe might not be serving our family or serving the world in the best way. And my personal story in particular is that I created a career out of my own intuition.
Mm, interesting.
And just being able to listen to that voice inside of you that's saying, do this, say this, try this, and then honoring that. And a lot of times it can feel really scary to go down a path that no one else has ever been down before. We believe we need to go down the engineering path or the accounting path and all of that. And that's wonderful if that's really, truly what you want. But if you feel like it's not quite serving you and your gifts, then I would say sacred creativity is something to explore.
Interesting. When I hear of your story, what I get the impression is that there's a lot of uncertainty, and you have to rely on different senses, and you can't really rely on like logic or reason. You have to really go inward, and it's the path unfolds before you. And for a lot of people, that's really scary. First, a lot of like you were talking about, like an accountant or engineer or doctor, very, very analytical. And for them to get into this kind of creative, or just when you're talking about more of these less logical areas, it's very scary to them. And then to not have a path and being blindfolded is really scary for them. So how do you address this for people that are listening to this, or like they're starting their awakening process, but they're just like, they could be hindered by social conditioning or their fears?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I know I talk about it in my book about how change, which is if you're trying to change something in your life, second chakra studies is really where I would start my focus. It's very often it's scarier to jump into the unknown than it is to stay with the pain, because at least the pain is familiar. If you were to leave a certain circumstance or situation and go into the unknown, that seems more terrifying than to just stay with the pain. And the way that I would encourage a client or a student of mine is to think of ways to be consistent in your practice, because consistency is what's going to build that endurance over time. The reason why we practice to link the body and the mind and the emotions together is because once you start to feel strong in your body, then you'll be able to take those leaps of faith or walk down paths that you would normally cowered away from. And grounding down through the soles of the feet is going to get the lower half of your body really strong and connect you to the earth. And the earth is really that foundation. It's more than just trying to survive or trying to cope. We want to thrive. And then once we get the lower half of the body really grounded, and so that's why in Tadasana or in a lunge pose or in a warrior posture, we focus on the feet. And when you have a beginner coming in, they might be rocking to the outer edge of the foot. They might not understand the four corners of the feet. And so that's usually a symbolic way of looking of maybe they don't feel grounded or they don't feel stable. And that's how you can start to psychologically get them aligned with stability through the postures. And then once you get into that place of stability, then you can start to do deep belly breathing into the lower half of the belly. A lot of us breathe in the upper half of the lungs, and we don't really access the full expansion. When you can breathe deep into the belly, so as you breathe in, the belly moves out. And as you breathe out, the belly moves in. And that's a way that I like to breathe because it feels like I have that sense of full expansion. I'm strong and connected. I'm strong and I'm connected. And then from there, you can come into the third chakra and maybe rather than just losing all of your power by doing this huge, big, open rib splay, we want to knit the ribs together, move the tailbone down, and now you're connected to the core. And the core is that symmetrical place in your body where, the heart's kind of off into the left, but the core is here. That's where I would start to work first for someone who knows that they want to make a big transition in their life or wants to go through a big transformation. It's those three energy centers, the lower triangle of first, second, and third chakra.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, how do you know which chakra to work on? Because you described this process where you decided to focus on one particular and then see what it revealed. So yeah, and I think for the audience, they can reach out to you if they're interested more. The other thing is this: you have a digital teaching house, and you also have a tabernacle creative residency. What is that for spiritual entrepreneurs that want to build their digital presence in community?
Yeah, Tabernacle is my baby. Like it's something that I've been running for over 2 years now, and it's limited to 15 coaches, 15 spiritual solopreneurs. And because I am a graphic designer and a yoga teacher, it's a creative residency. So for anyone who's looking to build a brand or wants to rise as a leader, a digital teaching house is your courses, your offerings, your one-on-ones, your private settings, anything that you want to put online to offer products. So I can help you brand those and communicate them so that enrollment becomes easier, or you can not feel overwhelmed with running a business. Even though running a business is very hard, I take my engineering background and my design background to simplify it and bring it into a 4-step creative process. So the reason why creative processes are important for business owners is because when you have too many ideas or when you feel lost, it's allowing you to bring a certain acknowledgement that your design is aligning with your vision, and it allows you to educate in a public way. So what we do in our work is teaching spiritual solopreneurs to tell people about their work, even if they're afraid of rejection, even if they're clammed up to the point where they don't tell people what they're making. I want to help you organize your spiritual business and make money doing it.
Yeah, really, because like I said, yogis are really, they embody this very spiritual, and because I've worked with a medium who was a monk in the past, and he basically earned his food and shelter and water was through the generosity of others. So he would describe this process where he just had to let it go and just allow people into his life and they would bring him food and water, let him stay at the place, and he was dispensing like spiritual wisdom and guidance, which is really interesting. How can people find out more about you and check out you? I know you wrote a book. You spent 2 years traveling the world, gathering the experiences, and how can they join your community and work with you?
They can go to my website, jago, Jago, yoga.com, and you'll see my chakra study. So if you're interested in practicing with me online, I hold bi-monthly live sessions And when you enroll in that membership, you have an entire library of all of the yoga classes that I would teach to my retreat goers around the world. And we move through one chakra a month. So we have 2 classes a month per chakra. Right now, we're in the second chakra, and we're about to move into the third chakra next month. If you are a coach and want to take your coaching online, or if you want to create a digital product, I can definitely help you with that. I have over 22 digital products that I offer, ranging from $22 to $10,000. I sustain myself and my daughter. I'm a single mom, putting her through private school, doing all kinds of stuff with my business. And I have the freedom of being able to work for myself, which is the most rewarding thing, to wake up in the morning and build my vision, not someone else's, and to help people with things that I've learned the hard way. I'm taking all the mistakes I made in my career of being a yoga teacher and making it easier for you. And you don't have to be a yoga teacher. You could be a Reiki master, you could be an astrologer, you could be a psychologist. I've even helped real estate agents put together their online coaching businesses. And so just reach out, book a discovery call, and let me know about where you are in your career and what you hope to build. And I would love, love, love to be a part of that collaboration.
Yeah, really fascinating. And really enjoyed this conversation. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.